Hello, everybody, and welcome to our after church tea time today. I'm Granville Campbell, and I'd like to invite the rest of the team to please introduce themselves, and then we'll carry on from there.
Hi, I'm Gabby.
Hello, I'm Nicole.
Awesome. Welcome, and thank you for joining me today. And to everybody that's following us and joining us, please feel free to like and subscribe to our Church of Union YouTube channel. Also, please feel free to share any thoughts that have come up for you, any feelings that have come up for you from today's sermon by Abir on overcoming comparison with others. And so I think the one thing that stood out for me was a quote that Abir shared quite early in the sermon, is that comparison is an ego tool because love doesn't make comparisons. And I felt like that was quite fitting, just in terms of sitting back and realizing what comparison has actually meant and how it's influenced how I interact with people, how I even just show up in life. So yeah, I just wanted to check in with both of you, what really stood out for you, and then we'll take our conversation from there.
Yeah, I felt that too. And it reminds me of like that being part of like a survival tool, right? Because you need to be able to compare whether or not you can take on whatever predator is in your environment, right? That's just part of that evolving process. But it's no longer serving us on our spiritual journey to be making those comparisons, because it is an outdated survival mechanism or tool, that we've utilized in the past before we embarked on our spiritual journey or consciously embarked on it. And it's kind of, we're moving forward in a releasing that and moving to the next chapter collectively as a community place, which feels really good.
What stood out for me was that God is your source, and comparison is from the belief that you are lacking something, but you don't, because you are already complete and whole. And when you're seeking outside of affection or love, then you don't know that you have God. And yeah, this is what stood out for me.
That was the other part. I was thinking about it when Abir was talking about it, like when you are on your cell phone looking for your cell phone, or like it's in your hand and you can't find it. That's like what we do with God, right? We believe he's outside of us. Mm-hmm. And that's where that like lack mentality originates, is that we're like, where are you, God? Like, what's going on? Why have you abandoned me? And we're walking around with him the whole time. And he's just like, it'll occur to them eventually, right? Like, it's just funny to think about how we conceptualize like God as outside of ourselves instead of as within us, and understanding that he's there the whole time, right? Just watching you wander around looking for him. Like right here, still right here.
I like that you mentioned that, and I think both of you mentioned it, just this energy of living in survival mode, so you don't actually quite see what's right in front of you. And I think it's something that Abir shared in a sermon as well, was that we sometimes we shouldn't believe everything that we think, and we shouldn't believe everything that we see. And it kind of just, it's fitting because it just reminds us to take a step back and to really feel into what is happening and to be true to our perception of it, without allowing that perception of it to cloud the fact that we feel like we're backed into a corner, or we're alone, or whatever other weird and wonderful thing we're thinking at the time. So, and I think it's something that she shared around just kind of bringing ourselves back into presence all the time. which is for me something that's probably been quite a journey of practicing and learning, just to bring myself back into presence and not to be swallowed up with everything that's happening around me or within me, because sometimes the thoughts go in one direction and the actions need to go in another direction, and it just literally feels like a melting pot of overwhelm. And so it was just nice how she just brought us back to the moment, to the place of saying, well, actually, don't believe everything you think, and don't believe everything you feel. Or what did you say? Don't believe everything that you think, and be careful about what you're feeling, because or not seeing. Be careful what you're seeing, because it might not quite be the core of the truth. So I feel like it's very fitting to just go back and say, right, there's like a perfect reminder to become still again, and to become peaceful again, and to look through the eyes of truth again.
Yeah, I love how she said, sit with the why. Why am I feeling this way about it? Why did I think that about this? Like, sitting with that why really brings that energy back inside of you, so that you can be fully present with it, and so that you can, find the clarity there of what's real and what is my perception in this moment. Where is it coming from? Why is it here? What is it teaching me? So really that line of self-questioning to get really clear and to stay kind of in our heart space and in our feelings, to get to the bottom of what's actually going on, regardless of what the external looks like or what's going on around us.
I love when Bia shared that you don't know why people have manifested what they have manifested, because you don't know what brought them to what they have or what they're experiencing. So she said, get clear on your intention and stay in your truth. And that peace is your compass, and that you can be brought back through the mirror exercise and the teachings of union to feel at peace again. And that this is, where you have God and feel complete and whole.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think something that's always stands out to me is just that, when you pay attention and you sit with yourself, it's so much easier to relax again into the peace, and relax again into what we've learned through the teachings of Jeff and Shaleia, and through being in this community. Just again, letting go of the energy drag, because I feel like sometimes comparison is it's literally an energy drag, and we don't necessarily see it that way. So we have the concept of exploring what energy leaks may be, but I feel like this comparison energy is very much an energy drag, and you don't actually realize that you're dragging stuff with you, so it makes your journey heavier, as opposed to the exact opposite of what we want, which is light and easy.
Yeah, I love that. It's kind of what came up for me while you were describing that is when you are like sitting with a friend or sitting with someone and they're telling you about something that's going on in their lives, and you're immediately like comparing their past and what their future goals are, and like what experiences you've had, and all of these things are swirling around, instead of like checking in with yourself and being like, oh man, like what is this bringing up for me? How do I feel about what they're sharing? You know what I mean? Because that's where the healing is. That's where the clarity is. That's where, God is, essentially, for you to be able to connect in with that heart space and with that source energy to be able to provide whatever it is in that situation. Your energy can't be drug into the story. So that's been huge just in my journey of like, it doesn't matter like what I think about this situation, or what I think I should say, or what I think I should do, or what I think they need. It's about like releasing all of that and just sitting with what's coming up for you inside of you. That's where the healing is. That's where like the purpose of that entire interaction is.
Yeah, I like that. And I think both of you have touched on it quite a bit. It's just like, where is our opportunity for healing? And sometimes we forget to look at it when we get caught up in these conversations. And things are happening and things are being said, and we listen to it, and we're trying to empathize or sympathize with people, but we're not really checking in with ourselves. Like, what is this really actually highlighting for me? Because I feel like that's probably the bigger opportunity, as you said, Gabby, just like to check in with yourself and to go like, actually, what is this bringing up for me? And to realize that we've got the tools so easily and so quickly available to us, but we kind of still get a little bit sidetracked. And also to realize that it's okay, like it's okay to sometimes get sidetracked. Like, I think it's something that she shared at the end of a sermon was just like, it's actually okay to make mistakes. And again, for me, it's like one of those things that we learn as we grow up, that it's not okay to make mistakes. And I have to be good or perfect at something. Like we really do incorporate this lesson into our lives so simply and so quickly. We don't even realize that it's happening. And then we go through our healing journey and we realize the stuff that we actually have to unpack. It's literally like carrying these travel bags with us all the time. And it's like, okay, I need to kind of unpack this thing now because it's getting a bit heavy. Like, it doesn't have wheels. I'm actually carrying it.
Yeah, I love that. And that comparison piece is also where we kind of get into arrogance, right? Where if, someone is struggling with something that we believe we have a lot of knowledge about, right? Then we see ourselves as not equal to them in some way. I loved how Fabian shared, like, every person that is in your reality is there to teach you something and vice versa. Like every person knows something that you don't. And that, I think, is something that as a society, we've completely not understood at all. And like being a teacher, I come across it all the time because there's a huge disparity between the teachers who believe themselves to be above their students and like the source for their students, and the teachers that are learning alongside their students, right? It's a completely different feel. It's a completely different learning environment. It's that shift of that student-teacher paradigm, right? Understanding that every person in your reality is there to teach you something requires you to release arrogance, right? It requires you to release comparison. I can learn just as much from a 3-year-old as from a speaker at a conference. It's just what it is. You have to be kind of open to those lessons and open to that like surrender of comparison in order to receive all of the gifts that are coming at you all day long, every day, in every interaction that you have with the people in your life. They're all there for a reason. They have a piece and you have a piece, but it doesn't like work usually if you're holding on to that comparison.
Thank you for sharing this. What this brought up for me is, as a unionist, you know that you're interacting with God when you're interacting with your brothers and sisters, and always be reminded of that you are, today I will hear the word of God. And this is not just when you watch the sermon, it's, as a unionist, it's a lifestyle. And when you interact with people, you know when God is talking to you, you know when this is touching and what resonates and what not. And yeah, as Abir shared in the sermon, that you're not born with comparison. Comparison is something you are taught. And whether it was at school or with your siblings or at family, where you think that God is, and we're coming again to this, God is outside of yourself and not inside of yourself. And yeah, I'm happy that we have the tools and the possibility to come back to the truth that you have already everything, and God is inside of yourself, and you can fill yourself up with what you think that you don't have, or you're lacking.
Yeah, I love how she drew the attention to that inspiration piece, right? Do you see the people in your environment as inspiration, or are you comparing yourself to that person? Completely different, motivationally speaking, right? If you are inspired by another person, then it feels easy to embody those qualities, to seek out, how to get there, right? Whereas if you're comparing yourself to someone, it feels heavy. It's a drag. You have to force yourself to do something that doesn't feel natural at all, right? It's a completely different energetic exchange between that inspiration versus that comparison. And I think that that's kind of the missing piece of what is being taught, right? What are we teaching our children? What are we teaching each other? Like, are we drawing the inspiration energy into that lesson? Or are we unintentionally teaching them to compare themselves to others? And where does that exist within us? Like, at what point did we learn that? And really just sitting with it to see, like, why? Sit with the why. Where did it come from? Why do I do that? Like, sit with it, get clear, let it go.
I like that. And then, I think it's something that for me, I like it comes up all the time in terms of why does this component or this thing or this thought process, whatever it is, why is it there? And I think there was something that I saw a while ago. It's just like this meme that says, "Who authorized this shit?" And sometimes you look at it and you're like, "Yeah, who authorized this? What happened? Who gave you permission to be here?" But it's that kind of thing. And I remember, one of my very earliest coaching experiences was just kind of chatting to somebody and realizing that she had allowed her pain to become a companion. And in allowing the pain to become a companion, she wasn't as easily able to release it. That let it go part that you were talking to Gabby. And I just like, sometimes I think we just actually allow things to become companions inadvertently without realizing that we're giving them room and we're allowing them to take up residence. Because we allow them to take up residence, and then until you can start cleaning out house, and you go, well, actually, you're not paying rent here. Like, you are not paying part of the mortgage. It's time for you to leave.
That's what I always say to my clients. I'm like, if you find that you're unable to surrender, it's at that point that you have decided to evict. Like, if it's not surrendering, you evict it. It's leaving. It's time to go.
Exactly. And like it's something that always comes up for me all the time. It's like, who authorized this? But obviously I did. Like, inadvertently, I actually authorized it. I allowed it to be there. I allowed it to take up space. And I think that's kind of the thing that we are learning as we go along, is to be compassionate with ourselves when we find those things, because we're going to find them. Some of them are smaller, some of them are bigger, but we're going to find those things where we kind of need to go, well, yeah, okay, so you exist, and I'm not so thrilled with your existence, but it's okay. We're going to fix this. We're going to heal through this. We're going to bring love into that space. But just understand that you are being given notice. Like, this is your notice. You are not staying. I also think something else that came up in the sermon that I thought was quite fitting was when Abir shared how the pursuit of specialness is what actually leads to this spirit of comparison. Because it's an ego game. You're trying to be better or believe that somebody else is better, which fuels an energy of lack or a perception of lack. And I thought that was quite, like that was quite a profound thing to just look into, to understand that as we perceive the specialness of ourselves or others, we actually we're not giving to ourselves or others, we're actually taking away.
Yeah, it works the opposite direction too. If we believe we have it worse off than somebody else, right? If we feel like we have more trauma, if we went through like rougher shit than someone else, we do the exact same thing. And it's so much harder to release it because we're holding on to it because we believe in that specialness once again, that we have it worse. Or, the opposite end of the spectrum. It happens both ways.
Yeah, and and I think the thing that really stood out for me was just realizing that we can accept that we are unique within a bigger picture, but that our specialness doesn't take away from somebody else, and their specialness doesn't take away from us. And it's such a nice place to get into, just to release that drain on your energy again. It's like, you can breathe in this space. Yes, you can be unique. It's like literally, like Asha said, that we are all components of this mandala that needs to kind of work together to create the symmetry of the human experience. But we weren't taught to see it that way. We weren't taught to see how everything fits together and how we are interconnected and how we each bring our part, and therefore we are all necessary. Like when you start to realize that actually you are necessary, it's a very different place to be. It's a much more comfortable place to be because you can relax. You are necessary. You are needed. You don't have to compete for space.
I loved when Abir shared the mandala part, where she said God wants to express himself through you uniquely. And when you imagine a mandala, there would be a missing piece. When there is one spot not colored, then it's missing. So you are wonderful the way you are. And as you shared, Granville, it's not necessary to compare yourself with others when you realize that you have your uniqueness.
Yeah, what came up for me when she was talking about the mandalas were the ones that they pour with colored sand. I don't know if you guys have seen those, but it's very much like process over product, right? They spend all of these hours and hours and hours just putting this sand in these intricate, gigantic mandalas, right? And then when they're done, they wipe it away and they start a new mandala. And I think we also have trouble in that comparison space of, oh, it has to be perfect. And we have to like complete this perfect project and it has to be this and it has to be that. And it's really just about taking the next step in front of you, right? Walking the path and understanding that once the mandala is complete, you've unlocked a new mandala, right? Like it doesn't end when the mandala is complete. It's a continuous process. It's a continuous ascension path, right? There is no end. It's the chop wood, carry water. It's the understanding that every single piece you do is significant and there's not an end. You're just going to keep going and deepening and expanding. That's the purpose. So to just release that control and attachment to like where's the end? I don't want to do this forever. This is exhausting, right? That's another place where we kind of like get into that ego trap of comparison.
Yeah, I like that. And I think it's something that we've all experienced, is that there's always an opportunity for expansion, but you can't expand into another space until you've really laid some new foundation in the previous space. It wouldn't be compassionate to perpetually expand. We'd probably get swallowed up by it a little bit. It would feel overwhelming, and the purpose of it is never to feel overwhelmed. And so I think it's also the difference between plodding along on your journey and actually being patient. Being patient when something comes up again for healing, because it's not coming up again, it's actually coming up in a new way because there's a new angle to it. And we've seen it countless times, we've experienced it countless times. The fact of the matter is we're learning how to be more patient, how to be more present with ourselves, how to literally be more compassionate with ourselves. And something that's always stood out for me is that your compassion is actually not complete if it doesn't include you, which is really cool to remember. It's really cool to remember that actually my compassion is not complete if it doesn't include me. Like, it's a whole different experience and a whole different perception of life then.
What came up for me as well, as Abir shared the comparison part about looking from the outside and what do they have and what am I lacking, in Life Purpose class number 3, when you can, Jeff said, when you can dream of it, you have an equal gift to give. So everything what you desire to have, everything what you desire to experience is for you to have. So it's not just about the qualities of, okay, this person is more loved than I am, or this person has more affection than I am, that I have. It's also about the material things, the house, the job, the car, the apartment, don't know. So when you have the desire in your heart and when you really feel you want that, it's safe to acknowledge that you can have it. And that peace is the compass. This was also something what came up for me.
Yeah, I loved I love that. And going along with it, that piece of like Granville was saying, your compassion isn't complete if it doesn't include you, right? I think we all get to a place where we realize that all of the things that we've been giving away to others, right, are things that we need within ourselves. And that also all of the things that are like stirring that comparison of, oh, I really want that. Oh, I really, I'm feeling jealous about this or whatever, are all qualities that we have the power to develop within ourselves. And just understanding that, like, that's the accountability piece, that's the ownership piece, that's the becoming all of the things on your love list, right? That's how it works. That's how you attract that, right? To really get clear about what is it that you want and how can you get there? What do you need inside of you to realize that, right?
Yeah, I like that you guys have shared that, because I think it's something that really did stand out for me in the sermon as well, is that when you see something good in someone, it's because you can't see. I think it's literally Abir's words were, well, you wouldn't be able to see it if it wasn't in you as well. And I think we sometimes tend to lose sight of those components. We tend to lose sight of the fact that you can't see something that doesn't exist in you. And yes, sometimes it's not something so great that you're seeing, but at the same time, you've got an opportunity to heal in those spaces where it doesn't feel so great. But just, just a reminder that actually I wouldn't see it if it didn't exist in me. I wouldn't see the good or the bad if it didn't exist in me, which means I can see more of my connection to everybody else. And so, yes, the comparison feels bad to an extent, but there's also a benefit to it in the sense that you need to realize why. Again, it's what you said, Gabby, sit at the why. See, why do I see that? It's because part of me has that already. And part of me can appreciate those good components. And part of me can heal through those components that doesn't feel so good, that don't feel so comfortable. But again, Nicole, it's what you said, peace is the compass. So if it doesn't feel peaceful, that niggle, that little sandpaper grind that's in the background, it's kind of just pointing you to something that's going to make you more comfortable, more peaceful if you take the time to look into those spaces and to choose to heal in those spaces.
That's exactly why you can watch a movie 10 times and get something different out of it every time. That's exactly why you can reread a book and notice something that you never saw before. That's why we rewatch Twin Flame Ascension School classes multiple times, right? Because they're going deeper in the healing. We're seeing things that we completely missed the first time because they weren't within us then. That's part of that ongoing ascension path, right? Understanding that as you heal and as you walk the path and do the work, you're going to be able to perceive so much more than you did previously. And it's going to be an enrichment process of being able to conquer more obstacles along the way because you have the ability to go deeper, because you have the ability to see things that you couldn't see before because they weren't within you.
Yeah, that feels good to me. And it makes perfect, like when you sit back and you have these conversations, it makes perfect sense. But sometimes it does require the sitting back and becoming still to actually listen and to allow the message to reach you. Because as you said, Gabby, sometimes we're not able to see it because it's not there. And sometimes we're not able to see it because we're not ready to deal with it. And it's very important to remember that our healing comes up in cycles as we're ready to deal with it. As you're ready to go deeper, you will be shown a deeper path. It's really just as simple as that. It's kind of like, it just allows for the confusion to lighten. It's like, okay, I'm healing through this part. It feels different, but it feels the same. But yes, it's necessary. And I think that the fact that at the end of the healing journey or of that process of healing or doing that 1 mirror exercise, the thing that always stands out is, are you going deeper into your peace? Because if it doesn't feel peaceful to me, it's not necessarily complete. But I also don't push myself too far to the extent of okay, I have to really search for this thing as well, because sometimes it's just not okay to push yourself too hard. Sometimes you need to give yourself the space and the time to actually allow things to integrate. And so I feel like sometimes we probably would see everybody in our community and people are progressing in certain ways, and some of us are feeling like, okay, well, we're not progressing like them. That's the point at which you need to realize that you can let go of that comparison in that space, because your journey is going to be unique to you and you're going to follow your perfect path in your journey because it's designed for you.
Yeah,
I think that's
most compassionate route.
All the time. Yeah.
I love that you brought that up, because I got this this vision of like falling off the bandwagon, right? Where you're moving forward, and it's like a few steps forward, a few steps back, a few steps forward, a few steps back, right? And we get into this space where we're like, ugh, I just want to move forward. This is bullshit, right? But it's not actually us falling off of the bandwagon at all, right? It's that resistance of, I'm not ready for the next thing, right? That's where that feeling comes from, where we're just like, why is this even in my reality? I'm not ready to look at this. I'm not ready to take this on. But it's just understanding that there's nothing that appears in your reality that you're not ready to deal with. That's literally how your reality works. If you're not ready for it, you don't manifest it. If you're not ready for it, you don't see it, right? So the mere fact that it is in your reality is showing you that you're ready to look at it. You're ready to see it. You're ready to move through it. That's why it's there, because you're always on the most compassionate route, right?
Yeah, and then I think it's important to stress that sometimes it doesn't feel like you're on the most compassionate route, but that's also okay. Like it's literally, again, it comes back to when, it's like, you know, it's that saying, when the teacher's ready, the student appears. In this case, we kind of, or when the student is ready, the teacher appears. In this case, the kind of, for me, the upset is actually the teacher. You know, and so the student is ready, so the teacher appears. You know? And if we look at it as simply as that, it makes life a little bit more comfortable, and it makes it easier to accept that it's okay to cross this little path right now, because that is the teacher. The teacher is showing you where to go to heal, and there's always an opportunity to heal. Cool, so I'm going to check in with both of you. How are you feeling? Are we feeling like we're nearing completion with this conversation?
Yeah, it feels really good to me.
Feels good to me as well.
Perfect. Awesome. So I'm going to say thank you to both of you for being here today. Thank you to everybody that's been following our chat today. Also, please feel free to like and subscribe to our Church of Union YouTube channel, where you'll find all our previous after church tea times and any of the live discussions that have happened in our Unionism Spiritual Discussion group on Facebook. And we will see all of you soon for another after church tea time. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.